Hello, this is Tony Hiller from RealClimateScience.com. Texas Tech academic Katharine Hayhoe has a long history of failed climate predictions. In this article about her from 2006, they wrote, 46 years ago this month, the world's athletes frolicked in the snow at the 1960 Winter Olympics at Squaw Valley. And Katharine Hayhoe predicted the end of snow in California. They managed to get all of their facts wrong in this article. The actual 1960 Squaw Valley Winter Olympics almost had to be canceled because they didn't have any snow a few days before the games started. They got both their history wrong and their predictions about the future. It's been snowing almost continuously in California for months, and they may well be headed for a record snowfall winter this year. In 1960, Squaw Valley didn't have any snow, but so far this winter they've received 670 inches with lots more in the forecast. Undaunted by her past failures, Katharine Hayhoe has become increasingly confident in spreading climate misinformation.
The previous predictions were not wrong. The uncertainty is us. The predictions were for what is going to happen depending on the choices we make. Prior to the Paris Agreement in 2015, the world was heading towards a future that was between 4 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer than today. And you might say, well, that doesn't sound so bad. It's 4 or 5 degrees outside or inside warmer. But think of it in terms of the human body. The temperature of the planet has been as stable as that of the human body over the course of human civilization on this planet. If our body is running a fever of 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, that is life-threatening.
That was a pretty impressive amount of disinformation in just a few sentences. About 20 years ago, Katharine Hayhoe generated the slide predicting huge amounts of warming in the future. That warming hasn't occurred, and recent global temperatures measured in the troposphere haven't been a whole lot different than they were 35 years ago. So Katharine Hayhoe is trying to walk back her ridiculous prediction by claiming that her and her friends saved the climate.
Prior to the Paris Agreement in 2015, the world was heading towards a future that was between 4 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer than today.
That claim is complete nonsense. The Paris Agreement had zero impact on the growth of atmospheric carbon dioxide. The United Nations has made dozens of climate agreements, and they're all scams. None of their climate agreements have accomplished anything. The annual growth rate of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere right now is the highest it's ever been. Now let's look at her claim that the climate used to be stable during the course of human civilization. These graphs were in the 1990 United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report. The graph showed very warm periods in the past, like the Holocene maximum and the medieval warm period. They also showed a very cold period called the Little Ice Age. During several winters around that time, the Thames froze over in London. The entire Viking population in Greenland froze or starved to death. 90 years ago, even the New York Times was aware of this. Around the time Stonehenge was built, the Earth was much warmer. The Arctic Ocean may have been periodically ice-free. Trees grew all the way to the edge of the Arctic Ocean in Canada, where now the tree line is 80 to 100 kilometers further south. The mean July temperature along the northern coastline of Russia may have been 2.5 to 7 degrees Celsius warmer than now. Katharine Hayhoe said that much warming would be fatal.
Prior to the Paris Agreement in 2015, the world was heading towards a future that was between 4 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer than today. And you might say, well, that doesn't sound so bad. It's 4 or 5 degrees outside or inside warmer. But think of it in terms of the human body. The temperature of the planet has been as stable as that of the human body over the course of human civilization on this planet. If our body is running a fever of 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, that is life-threatening.
That's some pretty spectacular misinformation. During the Holocene maximum, when Earth was much warmer, civilization thrived around the world. Humans do well during warm periods. Her claim that the climate used to be stable is complete nonsense. The western United States has experienced multi-century droughts in the past, which were much more severe than anything we've experienced recently. Near the end of the 13th century drought, the Anasazi people who dominated the Southwest for hundreds of years disappeared. Large cities off the coast of India, which existed 9,000 years ago, are now under 120 feet of water. Catherine Hayhoe wants people to believe that she's a scientist and evangelical Christian, when in fact she's just a political hack. And she blocks everyone on Twitter who has a different opinion, including all of my followers. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on these professional climate scamsters for the past 15 years. You can visit Toto, Kyrie, Caesar, Toki, Upla, and the 4 new puppies on the web at realclimatescience.com.